Yes, we're going.
We are. We're
So,
starting
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Carlos, thank you very much for doing this interview.
Yeah.
And let's introduce yourself first and give
Yeah.
us a little background.
My name's Carlos Vela Martinez, and I live on Bowen Island. I'm one of the owners of Cocoa West Chocolatier, and that's our family business. We live right above the shop, and I am also an artist. I went to Emily Carr, graduated in '94, and have uh, managed to be making artwork of some kind since then. I began with more electronic and more technological, interactive kind of artwork. And then when we moved here to Bowen and started the business, I needed something that was more immediate. So I started sculpting, and I found that really satisfying. And I now have my sculptures. I make casts of my sculptures and paint them, and I'm very happy with where that's going.
So, not just chocolate sculpture.
Not just chocolate sculptures, although some of them have been chocolate. Yeah, for sure. I also have a musical side, so I've been taking singing lessons with Lynn, looking across the street there. I trained with her for several years, and I'm now taking lessons in the city at the VSO school, classical singing mostly, although we're exploring different kinds of music. And most recently, I just auditioned for a part in at the North Shore Light Opera Society. So I'll be hearing about that very soon.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
So it's exciting. So
Yeah.
sort of have two different artistic worlds
Pretty
for me.
busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, then to get right into the questions, thank you for the kind of overview. Can you tell us the story of one of your most memorable cultural or artistic experiences on Bowen Island? And this can be as a performer, participant, amateur, or an audience member.
Right. Yeah, the one that immediately comes to mind was the Broadway on Bowen show that was produced here in 2013, I think it was. And because I got involved as a performer, Gil Euron and Heather Hodgson put this show on with a number of different performers. And it was fantastic. We sang, I don't know, it was 24 different numbers. The community and the camaraderie and the excitement of putting that show on together, working with other people, singing duets, trios, group numbers, was fantastic. And actually, it was that experience that was my first sort of musical theater experience with some acting involved and very little, but and certainly singing. That has stayed with me, and that was what inspired me to want more of it. So that's why I've now auditioned for this other show on the North Shore. So was so much fun.
And just to focus on that particular experience, what would you say that made it? Was it something that was unique to this particular community, or would you have had the similar kind of experience in Vancouver, say, if you?
Well,
living there?
That was a fairly new thing for me, so I don't have a lot of things to compare it to. But I would say that I think because I knew most of the people that I was performing with in that show, I knew them through the shop or just through living on Bowen. It was just like a very close community. There were fewer barriers immediately to start with, and then as we worked on it and worked on this and created this thing, it became very family. It became like a fun family event. I'm having difficulty describing it properly, but I think it was different in the sense that I already knew these people. I had a relationship with these people, many of them, to begin with.
That deepened as a result of this working together.
Oh,
on this
absolutely.
project.
I still see people that I maybe only had a few moments of singing with, but I feel a connection that I probably wouldn't have otherwise with them, and fond memories of it. And for even still now, I've always said to my wife Joanne, if Gil or somebody wanted to do that again here on Bowen, I'd do it in a heartbeat. It was fun.
So did that create more connection to the community in a way that maybe just the business, having a business here, is really connects you, but that artistic?
Definitely.
creation,
I mean, we know lots of people through the business, through the shop here, and that's been fantastic. But this was an opportunity to explore not only another side of myself as far as a creative person, but to explore a different kind of relationship with some of these same people. Many of these people have been in the shop, and I know them well. I know what they like to drink, and coffee and hot chocolate. But this was a whole other side, and I got to show another side of me. So that, I think, just further knits the community together. So that was. It was a fun time, and I think that works the same with any, if it's a gallery show or if it's where people have an opportunity to do something together. It's fantastic.
So for professional artists, which I think you are, what is the greatest challenge you face as a professional artist?
Time is always tricky. Time management, for me, maybe it's time management is always tricky. We have a business here. I'm also a father, and protecting a period of time to be creative is difficult, and it's a challenge. And I've been making artwork of some kind for a long time, and I go through different phases of like, oh, this is things are just working out. The time I can find time regularly. Sometimes it's very irregular, and I only have an hour here or an hour there, and to some degree I've learned to adapt to that bit of fragmented time. But if I can better protect time, that is always better. To say Tuesday afternoon, this time is going to be my time, and that's a big challenge for me personally. Another is that I'm a member of the co-op right now, the Art Specific Co-op, and I love that we can gather our work together. But what I miss is a place to gather to talk about our work with each other. We've had a few evenings where that Marie organized that where we say, okay, let's all sit around and talk about each other's work because we're representing it here in the gallery, and it would be interesting and better to know something about what is going on with each artist. And I love that. That was fantastic. But I would like to have that on a more regular basis.
So what would you need to do that?
It needs a location.
Time or location?
It needs a location more than anything.
A meeting room.
A place to gather, a place to meet.
And the gallery doesn't do it.
The gallery doesn't do it in the sense that, I mean, it's, the gallery is just down the street. It's just that way.
Yeah.
I think for me, it hasn't activated a, hey, let's go hang out at the gallery, or let's go to the gallery. I want to talk to you about casting because I'm having these problems with some technical thing, and I might want to talk. I talked with Jeannie Sarich the other day about some of her work in ceramics, and there are overlaps. Different processes. Oh yeah, getting rid of bubbles. Oh yeah, that's terrible. All these different things that we talk about. That is so helpful as an artist to be able to compare notes. Where are you at? What do you run into? Here's what I'm struggling with, or I'm really happy about this. What do you think about just these kinds of discussions? Where do we go now? I mean, there's things like here at the shop. We can talk a little bit, but it's difficult because I'm often working here. If I'm here in the front, we might meet at one of the coffee shops or something. But I think it's a sort of a neutral is not the right word, but a place to meet is for me would be fantastic.
So kind of a regular drop-in, a place where you would have specific times, or just
it could be that. It could be say like, hey, Wednesday afternoons, 3:00. Let's just go and chat. Compare notes. And of course this could happen in a different setting, but these are commercial settings.
Right.
Well, here at the shop, of course, we there's opportunity, but it's not very big.
No.
And
No.
I can't. It's difficult for me to be here,
Yeah.
be an artist with my artist hat on.
Yeah.
I'm here as the host and as one of the owners, and there are always things to do, and it's difficult to unplug from
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, for me, that would be.
So I'm trying to zero in a bit on exactly what would be needed. Like, it's beyond just the Arts Council, say, designating an evening at the gallery for artists, or is
It's
it more of like having your own little room?
It could be that. I mean, like at the co-op next door.
Yeah.
I've looked at it, and it's not a very big space.
No.
It would need just a little sitting area. Now, I know the gallery has a sitting area, and it's
But it has drop-in visitors too.
yeah,
so-
yes, it does, and
Yeah.
and there is something about protecting a space. We were talking about protecting time, but protecting a space, or that artists know is a place to
Yeah.
go to. A lot of it comes down to sitting, or
Right.
just
Right.
having the opportunity to stop and sit with somebody
Yeah. Yeah.
to talk about what we're doing,
Yeah.
because it's such a difficult thing to do when we all have our creative spaces, particularly here on Bowen. It's very scattered geographically.
Yes.
The infrastructure, you can't just hop on a
Yeah.
bus easily. I mean, you really have to work to meet. So to have a protected space where we can do that, I would love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's probably coffee involved.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Good coffee, Cocoa West coffee.
Yeah, there you go.
So, there's a second part of the question for interviews other than professional artists, but I'll ask you anyway. It's when you're at your most creative, what are you doing? And I know you've mentioned a few of your artistic
Yeah.
interests.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm in the studio. My studio is right up there across the courtyard there, and I'm building, sculpting. I'm working with wax a lot these days as the sculpting medium. It's a bit of a newer process than what I've done in the past. So for me, it's once I get into that working mode, it's great to be able to just keep going.
Yeah.
So I'm sculpting. Usually have some paint on casts that are finished already that I'm working on letting them dry. So I usually have different processes. Okay, I'm casting this. It needs to cure for 12 hours. In the meantime, I'm priming another piece, and that needs to dry. So it's a lot of different things happening at the same time, and juggling these different processes, which I like. I really enjoy myself. I enjoy the technical side, and that's why I do the sculpting, and I make my molds, and I do the casting myself. I like doing that. When it's on the musical side of things, I'm practicing usually at home with a little keyboard that I have, and but I think the most creative for me is when I'm working with an accompanist. So I had the opportunity to work with Elaine Taylor I did a house concert last year, and so I worked with Elaine, and it's really a pleasure to be able to work with an accompanist on many different pieces and make that together, make a greater whole
She's
together.
great.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
She is.
And I have the opportunity in town to work with different accompanists as well. And so that, for me, that musically, that's when it comes together. We do recitals at the Pyatt Hall, at the school, at the VSO school, and that's I think that's musically where it really comes to a peak for me. We'll see what happens with this the musical or the musical on the North Shore, and that'll obviously be a very creative outlet too, and it will involve another whole aspect, which is the acting side of things, which is largely new territory for me, but I feel it's exciting, to have that opportunity. So yeah.
I think I know the answer. You probably answered it already. Is what's holding you back from participating in or attending more creative and artistic activities? I think I know the
Yeah,
answer.
it's the same for everybody.
Time.
Time.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm lucky. I'm really fortunate. The situation that I have right now is fairly flexible.
Yeah.
You know, because Joanne has been building a strong business.
Mhm.
I fit into. I have a number of roles that I play in this business,
Right.
and those roles are flexible. Like I can move them around. Sometimes one is more
Yeah.
demanding than the other. They shift around. So as much as sometimes I can be a little bit chaotic, um, it gives me the flexibility to say, oh, okay, I need to do this now creatively. So if this, for example, if this musical happens, well, that's going to be a fair amount of time happening there. I still have responsibilities here, but I can sort of make it work. So I feel very fortunate that is my situation right now. So
Right.
yeah.
When you think of arts and culture on Bowen, what person or what place comes first to mind? What or who do you think is our greatest cultural asset? That may be challenging to answer.
Challenging.
Yes.
Yeah, I because I looked at these questions and I to give that some thought. And I was talking with Martin,
Oh yes.
who's
Yeah.
actually last name escapes me right
Clark.
now.
Martin
Thank
Clark.
you,
Yes.
thank you. And we were talking about his work with the trying to have a community center
Right.
central. I know he's worked really hard on that.
Yeah.
And for that, and that was the person that I most came. I mean, there are many other, Graham Ritchie and Heather Hodgson and
Right.
and Gil Gil Yaron was here, and I think of Tiernanog
Right.
and how hard they work and
Yes.
the time they have put into giving theater experience to Bowen Island. I think that Jack and Julie, that Tiernanog, they've done huge amounts.
Yeah.
And they also have a venue, like they're and that's been wonderful. I know recently there have been many more performances there, and they're providing something that I think really needs to be provided, not just by individuals in a small society, but by the municipality. Yeah.
So some kind of art center would be.
Some sort of community arts
Yes,
center. It's
yes.
sorely lacking.
Yes. Culturally, what do you think most differentiates us from Vancouver? I think you probably covered a little of this in your explanation of your experience.
Oh, there's. We're this strange hybrid between West Van and rural.
Yeah.
We have sheep, and then we have espressos and French chocolate. We have. We're a unique place. I think that mostly it comes down, for me, it's less distraction. I find that when I'm on Bowen, I have there are less distractions for me, and I feel like I can be more creative.
Even though you have a business here.
Even though I have a business here.
Distracting.
Yeah, well, it can, and but
That's interesting.
I despite that, I find that if I go to the city and I'm expecting, thinking, oh, I'm going to carve out these few hours and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to just do some sketching or I'm going to do some writing or something like that. It's very difficult to do.
Interesting.
Between just finding a place to park and which coffee shop can I find, and there's just so much going on. I find that I just can't get as much done there. Whoops, and I forgot to turn my phone off. There we are.
Okay.
I'm just going to have to just pause that. Sorry, learn which button to press. Less distractions. When I'm here, I feel like, oh, okay, I can get some work done, and I don't feel the pressure.
What is it about Bowen that does that?
I think it's just much more relaxed. There was, when we first moved here, I used to say, I still like the city. I like the city. Movies and going to coffee shops and seeing what's at the different art galleries. And I'm just getting older, or I'm enjoying I'm realizing more and more what I get out of being here on Bowen, and so I find that less and less I feel drawn to the city. So being here is much more calm, and I feel like I can think better here. So that's I have to have that if I'm going to be a creative person.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a good thing. Yeah.
And since you've been on Bowen, can you say what's changed the most, if anything, in terms of our culture, or changing right now? Do
Since
you see
we've
much
arrived.
change? What year did you come?
We came 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, we moved here and started the shop. Well, culturally, the first few years that first several years, 8, 9 years that we were here, I think we were just kind of heads down, and it was survival mode. We were new parents, new business owners in a new community, and
it's a lot.
It was a lot. That was probably the least creative period for me. I still managed to chip away at things.
You created a business.
Well, that's sure. You're right. You're absolutely right, and that counts. I mean, actually, that's something we didn't talk about, which is my role as a designer of the packaging here. The promotional material, a lot of writing involved.
The branding.
Yeah.
Cocoa West.
Yeah. We had Marianne Banjis. Is a designer here, and she did some amazing work for us for some of our first packages, our first boxes, and then I've taken those and run with those in different ways. But so there's a whole other role. But that is certainly creative.
Yeah.
But as far as the culture, the change, and what I've seen, I probably only started really being able to pay attention, halfway through. So we've seen lots of businesses come and go, and to me, those do change the culture of the island. It changes where people go, where the patterns of are people going here for lunch, are they going there for lunch, is there no lunch available? The restaurant Artisan Eats is it's a great business, and they know what they're doing. There were many businesses before that in the same location that really didn't, and we've had no restaurant there, so that changes the culture. Brings fewer people up here, fewer people to see the gallery. I think, if anything, that is the thing that I've noticed.
Is there a particular type of artistic or cultural activity you'd like to learn more about? If only you knew who on Bowen to ask, or are you swamped with your the activities that you've already?
I think my artistic creative plate is full, but I don't feel entrenched in what I do creatively. Like, I feel like I can always reach out, find something new. But right now, I think I've with the theatrical musical theater side, that will be the new thing. And unfortunately, I do know some people that I can reach out to and get in touch with to help me with that, and to help develop that side of things. I feel good about that.
And the last question is, and again, it's just kind of a summarizing, but in a few words, what brought you to Bowen Island, and what would you most miss if you had to leave? And I think you've touched on some of those things.
It's that small community, and that means knowing better the people that are around me. I feel that I know more people better here than I do have the opportunity to do in a larger setting. So I don't know lots of people really in a real deep level, but I know many people, and I know some of their stories, and I feel that they know some of my story, and we can connect that way, and that's great. That just keeps getting better as the longer we live here.
That's great. So I think that kind of concludes the official interview process. I might just ask you, I assume.
Are you guys open for the 10 o'clock coffee?
Yeah, we're doing that.